You know, when you walk into your local doctor's office, there's this very specific, almost comforting illusion at play.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you see the familiar receptionist, you notice those, slightly outdated magazines sitting on the glass table.
Usually from about 5 years ago, yeah.
Exactly. And you hear the quiet hum of the waiting room. It just feels small, right? It feels entirely contained.
And that local feeling, I mean, it's very intentional. It creates the intimacy that's really necessary for good healthcare.
Right, because you trust that the conversation you're about to have behind that closed door stays right there in that room, or at most inside like a manila folder in a locked metal filing cabinet.
But that's the illusion right there.
Yeah, because behind that reception desk, behind that whole friendly neighborhood clinic vibe, there is almost always this massive invisible corporate IT system operating in the background.
Doing all the heavy lifting.
Right. So, welcome to the deep dive. This one is custom tailored for the learner. We know you are always looking to understand the hidden systems running our world. And, you want the actionable takeaways without getting bogged down in the noise.
Which is exactly what we're going to do today.
Today, we are relying on this really fascinating recent cybersecurity report by the experts at Kinsoft. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because we're looking at exactly what happens when that hidden corporate layer gets shattered by a major cybersecurity breach.
Yeah, and the company at the center of this Kinsoft report, they're called Partnered Health.
Partnered Health.
Right, and that name might not ring a bell for you at all, which is by design, really.
Because they're the parent company.
Exactly. They operate as the corporate engine behind, more than 60 medical centers, skin cancer clinics, and allied health practices spread all across Australia.
60! Wow.
Yeah, and to give you a sense of the sheer scale we are dealing with here, they state that their services have touched more than 5 million people since they were founded back in 2013.
Wait, 5 million people?
5 million.
That is a massive portion of the population. Just funneling their most sensitive data through one single corporate entity? Mostly without ever knowing the parent company's actual name.
It is a staggering amount of centralized data.
Yeah.
Just huge. And in mid-July, Partnered Health confirmed basically the worst-case scenario.
It's a hack.
Yeah. A malicious actor compromised their systems and stole a massive cache of personal and health information.
Unbelievable.
Based on the initial reporting, this breach impacts 21 of their clinics. This is across New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, Western Australia, and Canberra.
So it's basically nationwide.
Pretty much. Specifically, 16 clinics are confirmed to have been affected, with another 5 still under active forensic investigation.
Which means for you listening right now, even if you have never heard the words Partnered Health in your life.
Which you probably haven't.
Right. But if you visited one of those local clinics, you are tethered to their corporate security practices. You're inside their digital vault.
Whether you realized it or not.
Exactly. And because that vault held health data, the fallout here is entirely different than your standard corporate hack.
Oh, completely different league.
So let's look at the actual inventory of what was stolen, because this gets incredibly invasive very quickly.
It really does. The compromised data escalates in severity pretty fast. First, the company confirmed the theft of what we call foundational identifiers.
Like the basics.
Right. Names, dates of birth, addresses, contact details.
Not bad enough, but standard for a breach.
Yeah, but then it crosses into structural, government, and financial data. We're talking Medicare numbers, private health insurance details, Veterans Affairs numbers, and concession card numbers.
Okay, so that's a much bigger deal.
It is. But the element that crosses a profound line, the one that really hurts, is the exposure of what they call the clinical layer.
The clinical layer, meaning the actual medical file.
Yes. We are talking about consultation notes, referral letters, and pathology and diagnostic results.
Wow. The raw reality of people's physical and mental lives.
Exactly.
I mean, I always have to draw a contrast here when we talk about cyber attacks because people get breach fatigue,
Oh, for sure. You hear about it every week.
Right. And if my credit card gets stolen in some retail breach, it's like, I don't know, it's like someone throwing a brick through my living room window.
Yeah, it's a huge pain.
It is a violation. It's highly annoying, yes. But I can call my bank, they cancel the card, the window gets repaired, and the structural integrity of my life is, restored.
It's fixable.
Exactly. But stolen pathology reports, Stolen consultation notes. That is like someone stealing your actual DNA and your private diary at the exact same
That's
time.
a really good way to put it.
You cannot just call the bank and ask them to cancel your medical history.
No, you definitely can't. And what's fascinating here is that the cybersecurity industry classifies those two scenarios entirely differently.
How so?
Well, medical records, they're referred to as crown jewel data.
Crown jewel data.
Yeah, because they inflict a permanent twofold harm on the victim. The first harm is structural.
Meaning the identity theft side of things.
Exactly. This data represents the richest identity theft kit possible. A credit card number is just a temporary token. But your date of birth, your Medicare number, your biological reality, those are permanent identifiers.
They don't just expire after 3 years.
Right, they do not expire.
Yeah.
The hacker now holds a master key to your identity that works today, and it will still work a decade from now.
And then the second harm is the diary aspect we talked about.
Yes, the psychological violation. I mean, think about it. A consultation note isn't just a record of a flu shot.
Right. It's everything.
It contains details about mental health struggles, maybe severe family trauma, or complex fertility issues.
Stuff you haven't even told your best friends.
Exactly. Exposing that goes far beyond financial fraud, is weaponized humiliation, and just a profound loss of privacy.
Yeah, that's just devastating.
Which is why crown jewel data requires crown jewel protection. It is absolutely not enough to just slap a password on a database and call it a day.
So what does crown jewel protection actually look like in practice for a medical network of this size?
It requires deep structural defenses. We are talking about rigorous encryption.
Like making it unreadable.
Right, but not just when the data is being sent over the internet. I mean encryption at rest.
What does that mean, at rest?
It means if a hacker manages to download the actual database file, it just looks like absolute gibberish without the decryption key.
Ah, okay. So it's useless to them even if they steal it.
Exactly. It also requires incredibly tight access controls. So a receptionist at one clinic in, say, Sydney cannot magically access the pathology results of a patient at a completely different clinic in Perth.
Which makes sense. They shouldn't need to.
Right. And critically, it requires honest retention policies.
Meaning how long they keep the data.
Yeah. If a clinic does not have a strict medical or legal need to hold a decade-old record, they should delete it.
Yeah, why are they holding on to something from 2014?
Exactly. It's just a liability at that point.
And that is a lesson that extends way beyond just the doctor's office. I mean, if you run a local gym and you have new members fill out medical intake forms, or, if you're an employer collecting pre-employment medical screens, you are holding health data.
Yes, you are.
You are holding crown jewel.
You absolutely are. And the moment those jewels are compromised, the clock starts ticking on how you handle the fallout.
Which brings us to the timeline. Because the nature of this incredibly sensitive data really dictates the urgency of the response.
It does.
And the timeline in the Kinsoft report is something we really need to dig into here. The initial intrusion into partnered health systems was detected on June 23rd.
Right.
However, the public disclosure, along with the direct SMS and email notifications that were sent to the patients, did not happen until around July 15th and 16th.
Yeah, so that creates a 22-day gap.
A 22-day gap.
Between the company realizing they had a major problem and the patients actually finding out their data was at risk.
Wait, 22 days. If my most private medical notes and my Medicare number are floating around the dark web, I mean, every single hour counts.
Oh, people were furious.
I can't help but look at a 3-week delay and wonder if that is just corporate foot dragging? Like, are they just sitting in boardrooms trying to manage PR and get their spin right?
That's usually the first thought people have, yeah.
Or is there an actual legitimate technical reason it takes almost a month to send a text message to the people who are in danger?
Look, it is a very natural reaction to view that gap with deep suspicion. Totally get it. But to understand the delay, we have to look at the actual mechanics of a forensic cyber investigation.
Okay, walk me through it.
When a breach is detected on June 23rd, the company isn't just sitting around writing press releases. They have to bring in digital forensic investigators to parse through literally terabytes of server logs.
Trying to find the digital footprints.
Right. They have to figure out if the hackers just looked at the data or if they actually exfiltrated, meaning they downloaded the data.
Because looking at it and downloading it are two very different legal problems.
Exactly.
So they are trying to figure out the actual blast radius before they pull the fire alarm.
That's the piece that takes time. During those 22 days, Partnered Health also formally reported the breach to the privacy regulator, the OAIC.
Okay, so they were talking to the government.
Yes, they brought in the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, law enforcement, and crucially, they had to notify Services Australia.
Why Services Australia?
That final step is vital so that the compromised Medicare card numbers can be flagged and actively monitored for fraud at a federal level.
Ah, okay. I understand they are coordinating with the authorities, which is good. But why not tell the patients immediately?
It's tricky.
Like, let the people inside the burning building know there is a fire, even if you don't know which specific rooms are burning yet.
It sounds like the right thing to do, but because we're in the cybersecurity world, telling patients too early often causes more harm than good.
Really? How so?
Think about it. If you send a panic text on day 2 saying, hey, we have been hacked, your data might be stolen,
People will freak out.
thousands of patients will immediately call the clinics, jam the phone lines, and ask, was my specific pathology report taken?
And the clinic won't know.
Right. If the clinic cannot answer that question because the forensic log analysis isn't finished yet, you've just created mass panic without providing any actionable solution.
Oh, I see. So you are saying a 22-day turnaround is actually reasonable.
Well, in the current landscape, 22 days from detection to notification is considered middle of the road.
Middle of the road, okay.
Yeah. It is significantly faster than the multi-month gaps we've seen in other major corporate breaches.
Oh, yeah? Some take half a year.
Right. Though it is still slower than the absolute gold standard of best practice. But your frustration is completely valid because every day of delay is a day that patients cannot put a freeze on their credit or, watch out for targeted scams.
Which means the real lesson here for any business is that you cannot wait for the breach to figure out how to communicate.
That is the crucial takeaway. Companies need a fully baked notification playbook built well in advance.
Like a fire drill.
Exactly. Before a crisis ever hits, you need to know exactly who has the authority to draft the message, what channels you're going to use like SMS, email, website banners,
Right.
and what you are legally and ethically prepared to say on day 1, day 7, and day 20.
So when the clock starts ticking, you're just executing a highly rehearsed plan, not improvising in a state of panic.
Exactly.
And that forensic timeline and the massive scale of the investigation required actually reveals the structural flaw that caused this whole mess to begin with.
It really does.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because we have to talk about the mechanics of data aggregation.
The concentration problem. This is arguably the most systemic issue in modern IT architecture today.
Right, because patients thought they were trusting their little local clinic down the street.
The one with the outdated magazines?
Exactly. But the breach didn't happen at the clinic on the corner. It happened at the giant network operator behind it. One single break-in compromised up to 21 different clinics.
It's massive.
I mean, imagine you think your money is locked inside a thick steel vault at your secure small-town bank.
Sounds safe.
Right. But what you don't know is that every single night, the bank secretly ships everyone's cash to a giant centralized warehouse out in the desert where 60 other banks also keep their money.
And that giant warehouse only has one padlock on the front door.
Yes. The convenience of putting everything in one shared platform creates this massive, glowing bullseye for criminals.
It really does. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you are describing the vulnerability of cloud migration and shared infrastructure.
Right.
When a parent company like Partnered Health acquires a local clinic, they rarely leave that clinic's independent, isolated IT system in place.
They want it all integrated.
Exactly. They migrate all that patient data into a centralized shared cloud tenant or a unified Active Directory.
So all the local clinics are suddenly just swimming in the same digital pool.
Yes. And that creates a vulnerability known as lateral movement.
It's a lateral movement.
Right. So if a hacker successfully phishes a receptionist's password at a single clinic in Perth, they don't just get the Perth data.
They can move sideways?
They can use those credentials to move laterally through the centralized corporate network and access database tables for clinics in Sydney or Brisbane.
Wow. From a hacker's perspective, why even bother trying to pick the digital locks of 21 individual clinics when you can just breach the parent company's shared infrastructure once and get all of it?
Exactly. It's an economy of scale for the bad guys.
That's terrifying. And it poses critical questions that any business owner, practice manager, or really any consumer needs to ask.
Absolutely.
If you are handing your data up the chain to a group platform, you must ask who actually holds our data right now.
Where does it physically live?
Right. How exactly is it secured at that centralized warehouse level? And tying it back to our timeline discussion, how fast will they actually tell us if that central warehouse gets breached?
Because once that central warehouse is breached, the data cannot be unstolen. The company is backed into a very, very difficult corner.
Which perfectly explains how Partnered Health actually responded to the criminals in this case.
Yeah.
Because the data was out, they couldn't put the genie back in the bottle, which led them to deploy the most unusual aspect of this entire story.
Oh yeah, the legal response.
The legal counterattack.
It is a fascinating strategic pivot.
Truly.
So, to set the scene, Partnered Health has refused to confirm or deny if a ransom demand was ever made by the hackers.
Which is pretty standard.
Right. Furthermore, no criminal group has publicly stepped forward on the dark web to claim the attack. And as of the initial reporting, none of the stolen data has appeared on dark web leak sites.
So it's just this tense standoff.
A very tense standoff.
And in the middle of this standoff, Partnered Health goes to the New South Wales Supreme Court and obtains an interim injunction.
Right.
Essentially, they got a civil court order that legally prohibits anyone from using, publishing, or disseminating the stolen data.
Yes.
Now, I have to challenge this.
Okay.
A court order against a cyber criminal.
I know it sounds.
That sounds like putting up a no trespassing sign to stop a Category 5 hurricane.
It really does.
I mean, are we really supposed to believe that an offshore hacker sitting in a basement halfway across the world who has already broken multiple federal laws to steal this data is going to look at an Australian civil court document and say, oh, well, the New South Wales Supreme Court says I shouldn't publish this, I better hit delete?
No, it sounds completely absurd on its face.
Yeah.
Your skepticism is entirely justified here because a local court injunction is absolutely not going to deter the actual thief.
Right.
If they are offshore and operating outside the bounds of international law,
Yeah.
a Supreme Court order is meaningless to them
Then why spend the massive amount of money on corporate lawyers to file for it?
because the injunction isn't actually aimed at the hacker.
Oh.
It is a strategic mechanism aimed at the secondary market. We have seen this tactic used recently in Australia during the HWL, Ebsworth, and Medibank breaches.
Okay.
You shouldn't think of the injunction as a lock on the stolen goods. You should think of it as a legal fence around the blast radius.
A legal fence around the blast radius. Okay, break down the mechanics of how that actually works.
Well, when health data is leaked, it doesn't just stay with the original hacker. A whole ecosystem of secondary actors springs into action.
Who else gets involved?
Data brokers download it to slice it up and sell it. Local scammers access it to build highly targeted phishing attacks. Even local journalists might download it to report on the specific contents of the leak.
Right, because it's newsworthy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But by getting a Supreme Court injunction, Partnered Health gains immediate, severe legal leverage against anyone within the reach of Australian law.
Ah, I see. So if an Australian internet service provider, a local tech hosting company, or even a social media platform sees this data being shared on their network,
Yep.
Partnered Health doesn't just have to politely ask them to take it down based on, like, general privacy guidelines?
Exactly the opposite of a polite request. They could say, if you host or share this data, you are in direct contempt of a Supreme Court injunction.
Which carries immediate, severe legal and financial penalties.
Huge penalties. It forces local tech infrastructure to aggressively scrub the data, limiting its spread locally. It effectively shuts down the secondary market within the country.
Wow. It also seems like a very strategic move for corporate optics.
Oh, absolutely. It is a powerful signal to regulators like the OAIC and to future courts, proving that the company did not just throw their hands up in defeat.
They fought back.
They took aggressive, proactive, and very expensive steps to contain the harm to their patients. It is legally brilliant, even if it does nothing to stop the initial offshore hacker.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening right now?
Yeah, that's the big question.
We have covered the massive corporate structures, the forensic timelines, the lateral movement in cloud networks, and this fascinating legal fencing. But let's bring it back down to the ground.
Okay.
Translate this into direct, actionable advice for the learner. If you have been to one of these clinics, or honestly, if you are ever caught up in any health data breach, what do you actually do to protect yourself?
The most immediate, practical threat you face is targeted manipulation.
Scams.
Yes. Criminals use the specific details in these breaches to build customized scripts. They will call you or text you, and they won't just use a generic greeting.
They won't just say, "Dear sir" or "Madam."
Right. They'll say, "Hi, I am calling from the Partnered Health Clinic on Main Street. Dr. Smith asked me to call you regarding your recent blood test on June 12th. We just need to verify a small billing detail.
Wow. Because they have that clinical layer of data, they know your doctor's name, they know the exact date of your test.
It bypasses all your normal spam filters because it sounds incredibly convincing.
It preys on your trust in your medical provider.
Exactly. So the takeaway is that just because a caller knows intimate details about your health history does not mean they are actually calling from your clinic. You have to maintain a state of high alert.
Never click on links in text messages or emails claiming to be from your clinic regarding a breach, a test result, or an overdue invoice.
Never. If you are even slightly concerned, hang up the phone, look up the clinic's phone number independently on their official website, and call them directly to verify.
And regarding the identity theft side of things, since they have permanent identifiers like dates of birth and Medicare numbers.
If your data is caught up in a breach of this magnitude, you should strongly consider putting a temporary ban on your credit report.
It's a freeze, right?
Yeah, it's a free service provided by credit reporting agencies. It stops anyone from opening new credit cards or taking out loans in your name.
Okay, good to know.
It is a highly effective way to freeze the financial utility of your stolen identity while the dust settles.
It is deeply frustrating that consumers have to play this level of defense, but it is the reality of the digital age.
Unfortunately, yes.
And for context, a lot of the deep analysis of the systemic IT issues we discussed today, the security gaps, the lateral movement, the notification readiness comes from the experts who study these corporate vulnerabilities.
The folks at Kinsoft.
Right. If this deep dive has left you, as a business owner or practice manager, wondering about your own IT architecture, you can consult the authors of the source report we used today. You can find their insights at www.kinsoft.com.au.
Their core message to businesses is simple. Stay patched and stay skeptical.
Stay patched and stay skeptical. That is excellent advice. The entire landscape is about proactive structural defense rather than relying on reactive panic when the logs show an intrusion.
It has to be.
Well, we have covered a massive amount of ground today, from the comforting illusion of the local clinic to the complexities of Supreme Court injunctions against global hackers.
We certainly have. And as we wrap up, examining a case study like this raises an important question, one that goes a bit beyond just this specific partnered health breach.
Oh.
It's something for you to mull over as you go about your week.
All right. Give us something to think about.
We talked earlier about how medical data, your DNA, your specific medical history, your date of birth is permanent. It does not change like a leaked password.
Right.
But if our unchangeable biological realities are now continually being breached from centralized corporate warehouses,
Which they are.
if they're becoming permanent digital commodities floating out there in the ether, traded by data brokers on secondary markets,
Yeah.
will society eventually have to completely abandon the idea of using secret personal data to verify who we are?
Oh, wow.
I mean, if your mother's maiden name, your date of birth, and your medical history are essentially public knowledge to anyone who knows where to look, how do we fundamentally prove we are who we say we are tomorrow?
Wow. That is a terrifyingly good point. The master keys to our identity simply aren't secret anymore. We are eventually going to need an entirely new system for trust.
Just something to keep in mind the next time a bank or a clinic asks you to verify your date of birth over the phone to prove your identity.
Indeed. Well, on that slightly existential note, we are going to leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay vigilant, stay curious, and we will catch you next time.
Until next time, take care.